Hello, welcome to Zakmat Plus, where today we're going to be taking a look at whatever is inside of this bag, which you'll know if you've seen the title and thumbnail, which is a 3DS, which I literally bought last week in a broken state, and I basically replaced this ribbon cable, which had a tear right there, which basically meant it would turn on for like a second and then make a pop sound and then turn off. And when I bought this on eBay, I also bought the part for it, which I was pretty sure would fix it, which it did, because this is going to take a minute. It turns on now. There are a couple issues with it, such as this right trigger not working. I have a part on the way for it, which will hopefully be here tomorrow. I might do an extra section on the end of this video if it shows up by the time I finish editing this. We will find out, I guess. Anyway, I'm basically going to show you what I have on here. Now, before we get into what's on this 3DS, I'll give a brief introduction to my experience with this console. So back in 2011, I actually had one of these, pretty much at launch. In fact, I remember seeing the demo at my local shopping centre for one of these, and I was too young to even use the 3D feature, but I still rewired one of these, so I saved up for a whole year and bought one. And unfortunately, this isn't the one I had, obviously. I don't have it anymore, I sold it like 4 years ago. But it was the exact same like colour and model and everything as this one. So it is very nostalgic to me, and I do have quite a bit of time. By quite a bit, I'm sure hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours on this console, on some of these games. So I have my favourite ones installed, plus a few ones I haven't played yet. So we're just going to go through it together, as well as all the modded stuff I have installed. Because this is a homebrewed model, if you couldn't tell by things like the Eightshop. So yeah, let's go into the Homebrew Launcher, which comes pre-installed if you do Luma 3DS hacks. These are all just directories for some of the apps. But down here we have Crosscraft Classic, which I don't think works because I tried it, so we'll just go with that. Then we have Line Player 3DS, which basically plays music files like MP3, stuff like that. And the one that I probably use most is NDS Folder Generator, which basically you can choose an NDS file and it will pull it to your home screen, and you can basically open it like any other 3DS app, but it's a DS app. So yeah, that's for the homebrew stuff on the Homebrew Launcher. And I'll actually show you, I have two DS games on here, New Super Mario Bros. And Mario Kart DS, which I've forwarded through that app that I just showed you. So yeah, that's all the DS stuff, and continuing on, this is called the Twilight Menu++, which is basically another way to launch DS games, but instead of having them on your menu, this is basically like a built-in DSi menu. And then these two apps here, they're basically a way you can stream your 3DS screen, however it works terribly on the original DS. If you want to stream your DS screen to a PC, you're better off getting the new 3DS, which has upgraded specs which can handle this. And then we have a couple app stores here. We have Ghost eShop and the Universal Updater, which are basically, they're the same app basically with different directories. And this is basically where you go find all your homebrew apps. In fact, let me open it for you. Right, there we go. So you can see there's a bunch of different apps you can get, some of which are just homebrew games, but there's a lot of stuff that's homebrew apps, such as, obviously you've got Luma 3DS, obviously you can download that. The one that I use most is probably the Twilight Menu++, which I just showed you, so that's for opening DS games. Amiibo emulations, that's pretty good, especially on the newer games like the new version of Animal Crossing New Leaf. It basically means you can emulate any amiibo, and it's particularly important on this 3DS because it doesn't have built-in amiibo support. And this basically means you can fake an amiibo on the console itself without needing to even have one, which is very useful for this one especially. But even on the newer ones, if you don't have specific amiibos, you can just use this app and emulate it, which is very cool. So yeah, you basically got pretty much all your, you know, emulators, homebrew apps or whatever. RetroArch, that's on here. NDS Forwarder. There's even Flappy Bird, which I have installed. CTGP7, you download through here if you want. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff on here. I don't really need to go into too much depth. So another cool app which you can download is called ThirdTube, which is basically a YouTube client for the 3DS. Now this is important now because they actually shut down the original YouTube client for the 3DS. So this is pretty much the only option because the web version just doesn't work. And on the new 3DS this works great, but on this version, the old 3DS, you can only run it at 144p, and it looks really terrible. Like, you can barely even make out what's on the screen because of how much compression there is. Whereas 240p, it looks great on this screen, but it only works well on the new 3DS. On this one, it just lags it. It plays back at like 5 FPS. So, not recommended to watch YouTube on this unless you have a new 3DS. This is a save file manager, actually. So you can back up saves to your SD card and then put them on your PC or whatever. And you can restore saves. This is particularly good if you're moving to another 3DS as well. Because I've heard the transfer system built into the 3DS isn't the best when you have Luma 3DS installed, or any other CFW hacks. So this is basically the best way to move your save data. This is Anemone, which is a theme manager, so you can do like custom backgrounds and stuff. And since they shut down the eShop, this is really good if you want to just use any of those eShop themes as well. Because most people don't want to be stuck on the standard, you know, coloured themes like what I'm using right now. I personally quite like the black theme though of the 3DS, so I'm probably going to stick with that. And then this is Notepad 3DS, which is basically a very bare bones word editor, so you can type out stuff and save it. It's basically what you'd get in a command line on a computer or whatever, especially if you use Linux. So very bare bones, although I guess it's quite cool to have. And then we have Red Dragon, which is a Virtual Boy emulator, which I haven't managed to get working. I don't know whether it's because I have the original 3DS or whether it's just the app's broken. I don't know. It'd be very cool to get working though, because the Virtual Boy was the first Nintendo console to have 3D, and this also has 3D, as you can see. So I think this would be a very cool thing to emulate a Virtual Boy on, other than like a VR headset. In fact, I have managed to get Virtual Boy emulation working on an Oculus Rift. It's really, really good, way better than an original Virtual Boy, because you don't have... The way the Virtual Boy works is basically, it's a row of pixels and it's got a mirror that goes like that. And that basically introduces a load of... It basically gives you a headache because the pixels are going like that instead of it just being a constant display of pixels, if you get what I mean. So playing Virtual Boy on a Rift is really cool, but I think the next best thing to that would probably be on a 3DS. So if I can get that working, I might make an update video on that. Moving on, we have Wordle for the DS. Not the 3DS, just for DS. And it's basically what it says on the tin. Every day you get a new Wordle, and you do it on the DS. Now this is very cool. This is probably one of the better original homebrew apps that I've seen, or games, other than other ports like Five Nights at Freddy's and Half-Life and all that. This is probably one of my favourite homebrew games. It's basically a mobile game, but I think it's, you know, it loads up... I'm really terrible at this. Let's try again. Yeah, it loads up really quickly, and... Come on, let's get past the first one. I'm usually good at this. There we go. Yeah, it loads up really quickly, so it's pretty convenient on the go. And it's very simple. I'm not playing this anymore. I'm very bad when I'm talking. I'm a bit better when I'm actually concentrating on this, but it's really hard to talk and concentrate on a game, such as Super Hexagon. Anyway, it's pretty good on the go because it loads up basically instantaneously, and it's, you know, quick gameplay. It doesn't take forever to play, so it's a nice pick up and go game, just like most mobile games. You know, very simple, pretty fun, so I quite like it. Then, moving on next, we've got a few board games. These are all made by the same guy, actually. And, you know, we've got Connect 4, Uno, and Ludo. I think they're pretty well fleshed out ports, to be honest. I mostly play Uno on this. You know, it's a bit rough around the edges here and there, but it's a 3DS port. What do you expect? I don't know, maybe someone will make a better version of it in the future. But yeah, it's alright, it does the job. Moving on, we've got a media player app. I have no clue what it's actually called because it just says Nintendo 3DS. But this basically plays your MP4s or whatever, since I don't think there's a way you can do it built in. But you can comment if I'm wrong. And yeah, we've also got 3D Shell, which is basically a really good actually file manager for your SD card. And it's really fleshed out. The theming is based on Android's file manager. What they said in the description, I quote, is that it's based on the Lineage OS file manager. So it's you can kind of see what they mean by that. Very material design-esque. But you can basically, you know, select your files, you know, go into your... Right, you press X to go into your options, and then you can do like properties, copy, move, delete, refresh, you know, new folder, new file, you know, there's all kinds of stuff. This is really good file manager, and it does save me a lot of time if I'm managing files, you know, having to go to my PC and, you know, move around SD cards and stuff. This is a massive time saver for, like, you know, organising your ROMs and stuff. This is great. One of my favourite apps on here, to be honest. And then last but not least on this page we have ccrmus, which is basically a very bare bones music playing app. It plays pretty much any format, and that's about it. The controls are very bare bones. You can't even skip halfway through a track, and there's not really any display other than, you know, your file manager. So you basically have to use your controls to basically play, pause. You can't even skip tracks for a playlist. But I don't know, maybe someday someone might actually make a good music player, because the problem with the built-in one on the 3DS is it's very low bitrate. So whatever you play through, it sounds terrible, but it does have the best UI by far because it can do playlists. So if someone can make a best of both worlds, that would be very good on the 3DS. Very well appreciated by me, at least. So yeah, that's all the homebrew stuff, apart from these two apps actually. So obviously we've got the Eightshop, which is definitely not piracy. But for real though, ever since Nintendo shut down the eShop, there has been no other way other than Eightshop and, you know, other places on the internet to download things like the DLCs and download exclusive games on the 3DS. So Eightshop is basically your only option for digital downloads that weren't physically released. And for me at least, it's worked very well. Obviously you can buy the full games on here as well if you want, which I would only recommend if you own the physical copies. And you know, you can still re-download stuff that you've already bought on the eShop, which is pretty good. I'm glad they haven't taken that away. So yeah, and then the next app, which is probably the backbone of this whole thing, is FBI, which basically is a package installer for the 3DS, and it's how you're going to be downloading all your apps in the first place, pretty much. Although Luma 3DS does come with them preloaded anyway, at least for ones you're going to use. Although I don't think Eightshop comes pre-installed, so I think you have to do that through FBI. So yeah, let's move on to... Before I get onto the main 3DS titles, let me do the retro stuff. So we've got SNES 9X, because I've got the old 3DS, so it doesn't have SNES Virtual Console. So this is really good actually. It runs flawlessly. I do have Mario Kart, Super Mario Kart on here, and you know, let's give this a little play actually. You can see it's running at... Let me zoom in a bit. It's running great. No, you have to bear with me because I don't have a functional right trigger. Yeah, let's just do a little bit of Mushroom Cup then, just so you can get the point of this. Yeah, like this runs perfect. I don't know why they didn't do it. This is what happens when you try and play while looking at the camera. I don't know why they didn't just do Virtual Console SNES on here, because it runs great. I don't see how there's a performance limitation. Especially given that this isn't even an official Nintendo port, so it's not even well optimized and it still runs perfect. I think even Yoshi's Island works well on here. So yeah, that's SNES emulation. Right, let's shut that. Alright, so next up, I have a couple Virtual Console titles on here. So we have Super Mario Bros. The original on the NES, and F-Zero on the Game Boy. One day I'll probably fill up this library a bit more, but I downloaded F-Zero because it's the one game I actually have on Game Boy Advance, and I wanted to see how it looked compared to on that, since I knew how well it played. I've only ever played this once on this 3DS. I do want to get some other Mario games on the Game Boy Advance and the other Game Boys as well. And I've also, yeah, I've played this actually quite a bit because I quite like playing the original Mario Brothers and seeing how far I can get. And then we've got Super Mario 64 for the 3DS. It's a homebrew port, and on the 3DS it's playable, but it runs it doesn't run the best. If you're going to play this port, it runs flawlessly pretty much on the new 3DS, so download it on that, not this. You'll be much better actually playing the DS version, which is, you know, native DS game released by Nintendo, if you will play Mario 64 on the DS, since you're not really going to be able to do any N64 emulation on here either. And then, last but not least, we've got the actual 3DS games, so I'll go through them one by one. Obviously, you've got Super Mario 3D Land, which I think I fully completed it back when I actually had it on my original 3DS, all those years ago. I believe I got close to completing Mario Bros 2 as well on my old 3DS, back whenever that was, probably about 10 years ago now. And of course we've got Mario Kart 7, which is the oldest Mario Kart to still have multiplayer online. So I'm going to make the most of that while it's still there. Although we'll see later on actually, I'll show you the modded Mario Kart 7. Obviously you've also got Animal Crossing New Leaf, which I've also played a lot on my old 3DS. However, I've lost that save because of selling it. So I have been playing this a fair bit actually to try and build up my save back up. And it's been quite fun. I've been playing New Horizons for quite a while now, so it's quite refreshing to go back to a different Animal Crossing. And yeah, we've also got one of the 3 Nintendo released launch titles, Pokmon Resort, which is basically you fly around Woohoo Island, which is what you get on Wii Sports Resort. And it's probably quite a good demo for the 3D, you know, bit of the 3DS as well, although not as good as the 3D is on Mario 3D Land. That is probably one of the best uses of 3D. But yeah, it's an overall quite fun title. There's not much to it, but for a launch game, you know, back in 2011 when I got my 3DS, it was quite a bit of fun. Moving on, a game that I never really actually played on my original 3DS is Super Smash Bros. For the 3DS. I've never actually been that big into Smash Bros. Not because I don't like it, I just never bothered paying the full price for a game because I don't really play with many people on my old Nintendo consoles. And when it came to Smash Bros on the Switch, I had friends who had it. So I just bring my Joy-Cons and we'd all just play on one Switch because that makes more sense, doesn't it? I never really played it on my own. Although I do have it on here because this is modded and this is definitely obtained through very legitimate ways. So yeah. Moving on, we've got Mario Maker for the 3DS. Again, a game I never really played that much on my old 3DS, purely because it was quite late into the lifespan of the 3DS, and I only really had the earlier on games. Although I did get this at launch on the Wii U, and this is pretty much a direct port of the Wii U version. But yeah, it's quite nice to have on a little 3DS for making Mario courses, although I still by far prefer the Switch version just because of how many features that offers over the original. Moving on, we've got Tetris for the 3DS. I mean, it's a Nintendo handheld, what do you expect? And then yeah, we've got Super Mario Bros. 2, New Super Mario Bros. 2 Special Edition. Yeah, I've pretty much played through the whole thing on my old 3DS, and I aim to do that again once I finish 3D Land. And I haven't actually loaded this up on here yet, but once I finish 3D Land, I am probably going to finish this one as well, because I have nothing better to do. Next up we have Nintendogs and Cats Golden Retriever and Friends, because I also had this on my old 3DS, and yeah, I like dogs. What else do I say? I do have a dog. It's not a Golden Retriever, it's a Chihuahua. Yeah, I quite like Nintendogs and Cats. There's not much to it, but you know, it's quite fun just having a little dog with a lot of personality on a little handheld that you can bring with you. Kind of reminds me a bit of a Tamagotchi, but better. And then obviously we've got Tomodachi Life, which is basically The Sims if you like Miis. It's literally just the Nintendo version of The Sims 4, but you can't build houses. This game is very Japanese. It's a very unique game. It's very strange. I remember watching a lot of YouTube videos on this when it came out, and maybe one day I'll actually properly play it because believe it or not, I've not actually played much of it. Moving on, we've got Paper Mario Sticker Star, which I also had on my original 3DS, and I didn't ever complete it because back then I was really terrible at video games, and I think I just ran out of patience to try to finish other levels because, to be honest, it was quite a bit harder than the other Mario games on here. But maybe, once I finish Mario Bros 2, I'll do Paper Mario Sticker Star as well. And below is a game that I have been playing a lot of on here, is Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker, which is, it's a really fun puzzle game, and the graphics on this is probably one of the best looking 3DS games, and it makes excellent use of the 3D. I think it's just a really fun game you can just pick up and play because the levels are so short, and it's not as intense as Mario, you just kind of play it at your own pace, and it's got some pretty good puzzles. It makes good use of the touchscreen as well. Again, this is a game I didn't have on my original 3DS, but I did have on the Wii U, like I did with Mario Maker. Although I think the levels are a bit different, I don't know for sure. I haven't played the Wii U version in like 5 or 6 years. So yeah, moving on, we've got a couple games that weren't on the 3DS eStore, or physical copies. We have CTGP7, which is basically, the Wii version of CTGP? It's that, but Mario Kart 7. And what it means is you've got a whole boatload of modded tracks and much better online support as well. A lot of people actually play this, not as much as the Wii version, but still very popular. And if you're a Mario Kart fan, this is something that you genuinely should download because it's a lot of fun. Although I haven't really been able to play it probably because of my broken right trigger. And then last but not least we have Flappy Bird. Hey, what do you expect? If it has Flappy Bird on it, I'm downloading it. This port is really terrible though because you don't actually press the A button, you use the really terrible touchscreen to jump, which makes it very hard to actually do well compared to, any other version of Flappy Bird. I don't know, anyway, it's Flappy Bird. I have it because why not? Anyway, that is pretty much everything that's noteworthy on this 3DS. I've had it for a week, and I plan on buying more of these, of the other models and stuff, because I quite like collecting old consoles at the moment. So yeah, obviously this is a brand new sort of format for this channel, and for me in general, so if you did like it, please like and subscribe, leave a comment or whatever, telling me what I could improve, or even something that I can make a video on, because I need ideas. I think some of the ones I have ideas for, obviously, I have a Wii U. There's a lot of modded stuff on the Wii U I can also go through. And I've got one of those mini Super Nintendo consoles. I've got a Switch as well, so I can go through stuff on my Switch. The possibilities of this are endless, I'm happy to get my hands on all kinds of old consoles and bits of tech. And I really enjoy repairing this kind of stuff as well. As I said, had this broken ribbon cable on this 3DS, which was an absolute nightmare to fix, even if it was quite cheap. But, we got there in the end, and I'm sure if I did it again, it'd be much easier because I know what to do now. So yeah, I think that is the video. I'll probably cut it off there. So yeah, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you hopefully in the next one. Goodbye.